Chapter 384 Rescuing Nan Shuishui. Sunrise City was surrounded by fields. Although it would be difficult, they would still have a chance. Before even leaving, the Sea God's Pavilion had talked about this exact matter during a meeting. However, the most troublesome matter would be escaping after being surrounded. How would running from an area which was filled with plains as far as the eye could see be easy? This was especially so at this moment, considering that the hostages were all somewhat injured. It wouldn't take a genius to deduce that they would be assaulted from afar. And thus, Shrek Academy had decided to make a bold and costly decision. There was only one way to escape from enemy sightlines in an area filled with plains with speed. The only way they could escape from enemy attacks within a short amount of time was to rely on an astonishing amount of speed. How could they increase the speed of the hostages they were rescuing? By using flying-type soul tools. Yuao's team had brought a total of 800 flying-type soul tools with them. Although they were all of the lowest class, and were even somewhat crude, the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy, as well as the Daluo and Heavenly Soul Empires, had done all they could. These 800 flying-type soul tools had been placed in the wilderness by Shuishui and the rest in advance. Once the hostages were able to escape, they would immediately equip these flying-type soul tools. Although many modern soul masters were still against the use of soul tools, a large majority of them had come into contact with them. After all, who wouldn't want to experience the thrill of flying at 4 rings? Because of that, flying-type soul tools were the soul tools that most soul masters had used. It wasn't as though every single soul master had used them, but the number of soul masters who hadn't was very small. Moreover, soul masters could adapt to the use of flying-type soul tools relatively quickly. Even if they hadn't used them before, they would be able to after experimenting for a few minutes. Every single flying-type soul tool was equipped with a map. After that, everyone from the Tang Sect offered a prayer and split up. Every single hostage, including those who came from the various sects and academies, flew off in different directions. However, they only had a single objective to get to the harbor city where Yuao had rented a boat. The only way they could escape from the enclosure of the Sun Moon Empire was by the sea. This was Yuao's rescue plan. The speed at which the hostages broke free from the enclosure could only be described as astonishing. In reality, even Shuishui and the rest didn't think that they would be that destructive. Without any of the experts from the Soul Engineer Legion obstructing them, a close combat clash between them and ordinary Soul Engineers was like smashing an egg against a rock. This was the main reason why the hostages were able to instantly crush the military line held by the Soul Engineer Legion. The battle between the subordinate army and the Soul Engineers was a unilateral slaughter. It didn't even take 5 minutes before the entire front was completely destroyed. Moreover, the splitting of Sunrise City's troops due to the need to rescue their soldiers and to scout out the situation in the northern part of the city meant that they couldn't stop the hostages at all. Yuao's plan could be said to be nearly perfect. At the very least, the hostages were already flying through the air and disappearing into the boundless night sky. Throughout this entire process, he had controlled a few key points very well. First, he was able to judge the strengths of the northern, eastern, and western parts of the city very well, and find an accurate time to misdirect them. Although the enemies might have guessed that they were trying to misdirect them, the secret location of the water prison gave the people from the Holy Ghost Church somewhat of a backing to rely on. Even the 2 Soul Engineer Legions and the city defense troops stationed by the city didn't know that there were that many soul masters being kept in the water prison. With Ma Shaodao cooperating with them, they were able to pull off a misdirection very effectively. The second key point was destroying the moat with his ice explosion. The amount of time he had to do this was very short. If they had forcefully charged out while similarly destroying the water prison when the moat was still there, it would definitely have cost the hostages a lot of time, as well used a longer route. However, Yuao was able to save a lot of time by blowing open a path and freezing the moat. After that, both Yuao and Shuishui had used their respective soul skills to save a lot of time as well. Because of that, it had only taken around 15 minutes for the entire plan to be carried out. Holy lady, what should we do? Zhong Tian turned to Ma Shaodao. Ma Shaodao flew into a rage. What should we do? Yido give an explanation to the leader. With that, she turned around and flew back towards the city. The third and fourth elders looked at each other and sighed simultaneously. Their opponents had already fled into the distance, and although it wasn't easy to escape from a plane, would they really go and chase after them with the current number of people they had? With only the 6 of them, what if they were to fall into a trap while chasing after the hostages? They didn't know who had come to rescue the hostages. They could discern how strong the hostages were, but they didn't know how strong the rescuers were. At this moment, several blue figures had appeared in the sky. Several hundred rays of blue light rushed over from the southern city, forming a river of stars in the sky. All of you are not to move, or else we'll kill you. A vigorous and forceful voice spread out through the sky above the southern city. Even Ma Shaodao, who was about to fly back towards the city, had no choice but to stop. Those figures had arrived very quickly. Within the blink of an eye, they had surrounded all of the evil soul masters. Rays of blue light instantly formed a wide net within the air, trapping Ma Shaodao, the third and fourth elders, and the 3 Zhong brothers within it. Don't attack. We're with you, Zhong Tian said hurriedly. At the same time, he took out a medallion from his chest. They had noticed that every single one of these people who were clad in bluish light had a flying-type soul tool on their backs. They were dressed in black warrior robes, and had the pattern of an enormous blue eye on their chests. This group of people wasn't dressed in a simple manner, considering that their outfits were seemingly made of metal. The reason why they saw the blue lights was due to the light from the eyes on their robes. Those blue eyes had pupils as deep as the abyss, and although they were only patterns on a robe, it still seemed as though they could devour everything around them. There were even countless dark blue patterns around the sides of these pupils that resembled veins. This was the evil tyrant Soul Engineer Legion. Ma Shaodao was inwardly astonished. This was one of the Sun Moon Empire's 4 great beast lord ranked Soul Engineer Legions. With the evil eye tyrant as its symbol, this Soul Engineer Legion was famed for its speed and surprise attacks. Clearly, they were the most suitable troops to assist Radiant City. An elderly man whose robe glittered with a bright blue eye walked over to the evil soul masters. The only people who are with you are those who follow you. You can talk after being tied up. This elderly man had a tall figure, an aquiline nose, and large eyes that shone with an ominous glint. His cruel and untamed aura gave off the impression that he didn't like strangers. Who are you trying to tie up? Ma Shaodao's cold voice rang out. As there was quite a distance between her and the other evil soul masters, she quickly turned around. No moving. The evil tyrant Legion immediately shouted out angrily. Scram. There was no need to even mention Ma Shaodao's identity as an evil soul master. Even at Shrek Academy, she had always been famed for her temper. Moreover, she had been looking forward to causing a mess. Blazing phoenix flames instantly rose from her body as 2 yellow, 2 purple, 3 black, and 1 red soul ring appeared, along with the resounding cry of a phoenix. The somewhat chilly air in the sky instantly heated up. What was even more terrifying, however, was that ripples had appeared in the air 10 meters around Ma Shaodao. All of the lock-on effects of the soul tools targeting her were instantly rendered useless. Why did the Zhong brothers respect Ma Shaodao so much? Other than her position in the Holy Ghost Church, it was because of her undeniable strength. The Holy Ghost Church had spared no costs to help her obtain her 8th soul ring, which was 100,000 year 1. The leader of the Holy Ghost Church, Zhong Liwu, had even said that she was the first in line to be his successor. The moment Ma Shaodao released her martial soul, a smidge of dark red was immediately added to the pitch black night sky. She comfortably unfurled the blazing, dark red wings of her dark phoenix, and the soul engineers closest to her were astonished to find that their soul tools had become extremely hot. Not only were they unable to fire them, but they even started to melt. Halt! A sharp voice rang out. This voice came loftily and abruptly, yet was abnormally sharp. And with Ma Shaodao's cultivation, she trembled, and the phoenix flames she released withdrew slightly. A pitch black figure shot out from the rear of the evil tyrant Legion, then sharply shouted at the leader of the Legion, Commander Wang, are you trying to start a civil war? These are men from our national religion, and this is our holy lady. If you don't quickly capture those hostages, who's going to take responsibility for this? The face of the elderly man who had an aquiline nose twitched slightly. Only then did he raise his hand to order all of the soul engineers to lower their weapons. At the same time, he sighed, inwardly. Although he was confident in taking on Ma Shaodao in a fight, he was scared of the losses he would receive. However, Ma Shaodao was cursing inwardly. Although she couldn't beat all of these people, Yuao's escape would be helped if she could stall them. That was why she had provoked them. If they started a fight here, it would naturally give Yuao's team a great advantage. She was simply not afraid of what this evil tyrant Legion could do to her. From the expression of their leader, she could tell that they detested evil soul masters. Even though this was the case, however, they wouldn't dare to openly go against the national religion, and the Holy Ghost Church had already been declared the Sun Moon Empire's national religion. Chase them. They can't have run too far. Head to the south. Also, use our long-range communication soul tool to tell the city guard to release all of the aerial surveillance soul tools they have. Pass on this message. 100 of you are to stay here and guard Sunrise City. The rest of you are to follow me. As he spoke, the aquiline-nosed elderly man was already rising into the air. The enormous wings of a flying-type soul tool unfurled behind his back, and 12 lights simultaneously shot out, transforming him into a stream of light shooting into the distance. We'll take a look as well. Elders, you two can stay behind. The Zhang brothers will follow me. Ma Xiaotao immediately made a quick decision after twitching her eyes slightly. She didn't know where Hua Yuao was. He hadn't told her that he would stay in Sunrise City. Instead, he'd instructed her to flee from the evil soul masters and regroup in Shrek Academy after their plan was carried out. With Ma Xiaotao's current condition, the evil energy in her body wouldn't act up for a week at least. If she didn't get into a fight, this period of time could be extended further. Seeing that the evil tyrant legion was this powerful, she naturally couldn't just let them go after Hua Yuao and the rest. In the event that they were able to catch up to him, what would come of that? On the other hand, she could use the name of the Holy Ghost Church to snatch them when the time came. The reason why she didn't want the two elders to follow her was because she couldn't control two-titled Douluo. Moreover, the Zhang brothers could only listen to her orders now, since they had committed a grave mistake earlier. Ma Xiaotao's plan wasn't bad, but she never would have thought that her little brother, who she worried the most about, was actually in Sunrise City, and not far away from her. The few evil soul masters around her didn't have any objections at all. In the first place, they were the ones who'd let the hostages escape. As a result, Ma Xiaotao's preference to chase after them by herself was naturally within reason. Moreover, she'd even left the two elders behind. 200 rays of blue light, in addition to Ma Xiaotao and the Zhang brothers, flew into the distance like a bolt of lightning. Within the blink of an eye, they had disappeared without leaving any traces behind. The third and fourth elders looked at each other with ugly expressions on their faces. How could they not see how Ma Xiaotao was trying to exclude them? However, she was a person who would wield enormous power in the Holy Ghost Church in the future. The fourth elder whispered, "We'll need to find the vice leader when we get back." "Yes," the third elder replied. Then, he turned towards the person fully clad in black and said, "Are you Yan or Wu?" The black-clothed person suddenly raised her head, letting her cloak slide back to reveal an extremely pale, yet abnormally beautiful face. If Hua Yuao were here, he definitely would have been stunned to see that this woman was completely identical to the evil soul master that he had killed a few days ago. How were you people even watching over Sunrise City? My sister is dead. Did you people not know that? Were it not for the spiritual connection that we had, I would have been left in the dark. The black-clothed woman's sharp voice was filled with rancor, and her blood-red eyes looked as though they wanted to spit out fresh blood. "You're Wu? Are you saying that Wu Yan is dead? How can this be?" The third elder said, astonished. Regardless of whether it was him or the fourth elder, they both understood Wu Yan's strength very well. Although she was only an 8-ring soul Douluo, even a titled Douluo would find her a nuisance in a fight due to her powerful spirit of vengeance. The third elder knew that he wouldn't be a match for her if they were to fight within a distance of 100 meters. However, it was because of the peculiarity of their martial souls that Wu Yan and Wu were considered extremely abnormal people, even within the Holy Ghost Church. No one was willing to interact with them, and so they were stationed in an unremarkable city to govern it. When Sunrise City was chosen to hold the hostages, the Holy Ghost Church didn't feel reassured with Wu Yan alone. Thus, they specially sent Ma Xiaotao over to directly take over Wu Yan's position. However, the two elders didn't think that Wu Yan, who they saw as evil and powerful, would actually perish. Wu Yu's blood-red eyes trembled slightly after seeing the astonishment in the eyes of the two elders. "It seems like you weren't the ones who did it. The astonishment on your faces can't be faked. The person who harmed my sister is still in the city. Follow me." As she spoke, Wu turned around and flew towards the city. The 100 members of the evil tyrant legion who were left behind all unfurled their flying-type soul tools and followed her. The third and fourth elders also hurriedly followed her. They were both flabbergasted at this moment, as they didn't know what this Wu was trying to do. Sunrise City was currently a mess, but there were very few people on the streets. To the citizens living in Sunrise City, the violent booms and shaking earth were signs that something huge was coming. What else could the ordinary folk do but hide in their houses, trembling? The soldiers didn't travel via the streets, leaving a deathly silence looming in the city. The sky was already very dark, but, possibly due to the excessively bright lights from the huge explosion earlier, Sunrise City was still somewhat lit up. A light and twisting figure quietly appeared at the corner of the street, then leapt like a fish over a wall to arrive at a different street. His footsteps were extremely quick, and he switched roads every few moments. Finally, he stopped at a rather large courtyard. "Kyukayu, who are you?" whispered. After splitting up with Iketu, he had immediately rushed over to group up with Nan Kyukayu. Hidden beneath the shadow of the door to a nearby house was Nan Kyukayu, who leapt up as lightly as a cat. Within a few moments, she arrived by Hua Yuao's side and was covered by his invitation, which allowed her to blend into their surroundings. "You're finally here. I was almost worried to death." For the first time ever, Nan Kyukayu finally thought that Hua Yuao was rather cute. At the very least, he had been able to make it on time at a crucial moment like this. Hua Yuao asked, "Are there any movements inside?" Nan Kyukayu shook her head. She said with an impatient look on her face, "I'm worried precisely because I haven't heard anything going on inside. What about your side? Were you able to save everyone?" Hua Yuao nodded. "I've saved them, but I can't say for sure how many of them will be able to escape. Hopefully, most of them will make it out. As the hostages had split up in different directions, a large majority of them would definitely be able to escape. He could guarantee that this would happen. However, Hua Yuao knew that their plan wasn't 100% perfect. If one person were captured, it would be hard to say whether their meeting point could remain a secret. Yet, they simply couldn't make any careful arrangements, nor relay them to the several hundred hostages due to the time constraints they were put under. As such, they could only resign themselves to fate. In any case, Hua Yuao had already told Shu Sanchi and the rest that a ship had been prepared for them once they reached the harbor. Moreover, Shrek Academy's support should have already arrived by then, as well. It didn't matter whether the soldiers chasing after them could find their meeting point. What did matter, however, was whether the hostages could reach the meeting point in the first place. They would be safe if they could make it there. Other than the people from Shrek Academy who were in charge of rescuing them, there were also experts from the body sect, as well as the various sects and academies whose disciples and students had been kidnapped. This was a force that contained over 10 titled Douluo, as well as countless soul Douluo and soul sages. A large majority of these people were under the surveillance of the Sun Moon Empire, and as such couldn't leave their home empires easily. But after using substitutes and various different methods to escape from the Sun Moon Empire's spying, they had traveled over to the harbor using the greatest possible speed they could muster. This was because Hua Yuao had only given out the correct meeting point 2 days before the plan had been carried out. Even if the Sun Moon Empire were to discover that these people were missing, it wouldn't be easy for them to relay this news back home that quickly. Moreover, the rescue team and hostages would already have started returning to the Douluo continent by that time. Hearing how boundless the world was, how could they even attempt to recapture them at that time? There was no need to even talk about a beast lord soul engineer legion. Even 2 or 3 legions would have no choice but to flee after encountering so many experts. Even if the main army arrived, they would have to fight over the ocean, where soul engineers couldn't fight for long, as they would have to rely on flying type soul tools. Once their soul power was fully exhausted, there would only be food for the sea type soul beasts living in the ocean. At this point, Hua Yuao's plan could be considered to have been successful. Roughly 5 minutes after splitting up with Iketu, he received the latter's last message via his long-range transmission soul tool. The objective had been achieved, and all of the flying type soul tools they had prepared had been activated, and they were no longer in the area they had been left in. In other words, the hostages had already flown away using the flying type soul tools. Those flying type soul tools were equipped with class 4 sealed milk bottles. Even if they didn't have any physical strength at all, these sealed milk bottles would allow them to fly for 2 hours. If several hundred people all flew in different directions for 2 hours, even a few hundred soul engineers wouldn't be able to catch up to them. Even if the evil tyrant legion was more conceited than they already were, they wouldn't dare to split up and chase after so many elite soul masters. Let's go in. Hua Yuao was feeling quite happy now. What he needed to do now was rescue Nan Shuishui, then hide the mother and daughter duo for a while before returning to the academy once this whole mess was over. Since there would only be 3 of them and combined with how things were going already, they simply had no need to travel via water. Hua Yuao had his own ways to conceal them as they returned to Shrek Academy by a different route. This courtyard was where the third elder had imprisoned Nan Shuishui. Hua Yuao released his spiritual detection and sent it out like a net that covered the entire courtyard. There was no way the third elder could be here. Sunrise City was a big mess, and Sister Shadow was by his side. Hua Yuao gestured at Nan Kyukayu, then gently leapt up. He used his right hand to vault the top of the courtyard's walls, then floated into the courtyard. Nan Kyukayu quickly followed him, and she too entered the courtyard. Hua Yuao gestured at her again, then used his spiritual sharing to send her a mental message. I'll handle the 2 in the room, and you handle the 2 in the courtyard. Your mother is fine. I can sense her breathing. anything. She's just a bit weak, so don't worry. The evil soul masters who were in the room were a bit stronger, and as such he felt more reassured taking them on. Okay. Nan Qiuqiu was overjoyed. Bending down, she quietly hid in a dark spot near the courtyard. On the other hand, Hu Yue used his imitation to quietly reach a side room on the left side of the courtyard. Ha! Nan Qiuqiu flicked her fingers, and a small rock fell into the courtyard without making much noise. Almost noiselessly, a shadowy figure instantly appeared at the spot the rock fell. This shadowy figure was followed by a rotten smell, and green smoke started spreading through that narrow area. Nan Qiuqiu squinted her eyes. What a fierce evil soul master. Once the greenish mist appeared, two figures stepped out from the veranda underneath the corridor. Xiao Hong, you're too sensitive. It could just be a cat or mouse. Why are you so suspicious of such a little noise? This courtyard's going to turn toxic from your corrosive poison ball. The person speaking was a relatively short evil master who had an ash grey face and a set of wide nostrils. Humphrey. Xiao Hong made a gesture with his fingers, and his triangular eyes darted around. As he snorted disdainfully, he even revealed two buck teeth. It's just called being prepared. Didn't the third elder praise me for how agile I was last time? Killing someone innocent is fine, but we can't let a guilty person off. Who cares if it's a mouse or cat? Mau, you can't be this casual, either. If the third elder knew about this, you'd be whipped again. Nan Qiuqiu felt goosebumps rise as she heard these childish voices. She didn't make a move, as she was waiting for Hu Yuao's signal. The evil soul masters in the room could threaten her mother's life, but the two outside were only four ring soul ancestors, which wasn't something that could threaten her. Hu Yuao had already entered the room when the two evil soul ancestors had rushed out from the veranda. He simply didn't have any fear of being discovered due to his imitation. Nan Shuishui was imprisoned in the basement, and only two evil soul masters were stationed in the room above the basement. He couldn't give them the opportunity to kill her, and thus not only did he have to be careful, but he had to move like lightning once he made a move. After noiselessly arriving outside the room the two evil soul masters were in, the air around Hu Yuao's body twisted slightly as he released a gem-white soul ring. He had activated his spiritual interference domain. The two evil soul masters in the room were currently drinking wine. Although there were only two of them, a large array of dishes were placed on the table in front of them, and they were drinking merrily. I say brother, why do you have two heads? Two, what do you mean two? You've drank too much. Why are you so weak today? Use your soul power to flush out the alcohol. Bullshit. What's the point of drinking if I do that? I'll have a nice sleep later after getting a bit dizzy. Recently, I've reached a bottleneck in my soul power, and I can't increase it anymore. It seems like I'll have to kill a few more people and eat their hearts to increase my blood chi. How disgusting. What's nice about a human heart? Human brains are the best. That soft and sticky taste. Disc tisk tisk. Peng. The evil soul master who was indulging fully in his daydreams was suddenly flabbergasted. That was because the person sitting in front of him suddenly had his head blown off. The soft and sticky brains splattered everywhere, and the brain juices that landed on him actually had that ever-familiar flavor he remembered. He used his finger to touch some of the brain juice that had landed on his face, then tasted it. It seems like I've drunk too much. Why does the brain juice in my dream taste so real? Haha, it's really delicious. I'm dreaming about eating a brain while drinking alcohol. Not bad, not bad. Why is it so cold? A hand that held a diamond-shaped crystal of ice landed on his neck. Right after that, this sulking ranked evil soul master followed his companion into death with a gentle crack. Due to Hu Yuao's spiritual interference domain, they had not felt any undulations of soul power throughout the entire process. It was also why this brain-eating person thought that it was only a dream when the person sitting in front of him had his head blown apart. However, that had been real. Death was the only result for an evil soul king who didn't specialize in spiritual force when facing the eye of destiny enhanced spiritual shock. As for this other person, he was even drunk while Hu Yuao's domain of perpetual ice was taking effect. His neck was directly crushed by the ice empress pincer. While Hu Yuao was making a move, he gestured mentally at Nan Qiuqiu, who then used the power of annihilation to devastate everything in front of her. Within a few breaths, she had already charged right into the room. Yuao, what about my mom? Nan Qiuqiu quickly walked over to Hu Yuao, not even bothering to spare a glance at the corpses of the two evil soul masters. Hu Yuao didn't utter a word. He walked over to the table they had been drinking it on, then tapped the ground with his right leg. With a crunch, a slab broke apart, revealing a pitch black hole that had faint air currents flowing out. Your mom's down there. Go rescue her. You'll have to be quick though. I'll be waiting for you outside. With that, he turned around and went outside. Nan Qiuqiu couldn't be bothered to care about Hu Yuao's somewhat strange expression. Without hesitation, she jumped into the basement. Although there were air currents coming from the basement, Nan Qiuqiu was astonished to discover once she landed that not only was the ventilation in this room pretty good, but it was abnormally clear and fresh, yet not too cold. Mom, in the next moment, she saw her mother. However, her eyes instantly widened, and she opened her mouth, astonished. The environment in the basement was far better than Nan Qiuqiu had thought before. From her point of view, her mother must have suffered a great crime while being held captive by the evil soul masters. However, what about reality? Not only was this basement extremely clean and fresh, but there was even a complete set of clean furniture. There were various types of fruits laid on the table. The ground even had a thick carpet covering it. Other than the heavy atmosphere present, it was practically a luxurious bedroom. Naturally, the reason why Nan Qiuqiu was astonished before wasn't because of the conditions of the room. Instead, it was because of her mother. Although Nan Shuishui looked somewhat pale, she was quite healthy. She was currently seated by the table eating fruit, and her eyes turned somewhat dull as she saw Nan Qiuqiu arrive. The only abnormal thing about her was that she was completely naked. There was a thin, silver chain on her right leg. Mom. Nan Qiuqiu's voice was clearly trembling. The fruit in Nan Shuishui's hand dropped to the table with a thud. Her face instantly paled, and she answered in a trembling voice, Qiuqiu. Nan Qiuqiu's eyes instantly became clear. With a sudden stride forward, she walked over to Nan Shuishui. Right after that, she bent down and unleashed the pinkish red power of annihilation on the chain attached to her mother's feet. However, although the silver chain looked very thin, it was extremely sturdy. Even her power of annihilation wasn't able to damage it in any way. Nan Shuishui seemed to have sobered up somewhat as she quickly called out, Qiuqiu, why have you come? Quickly, go. It'll be troublesome if that person comes back. Nan Qiuqiu didn't look at her mother. Instead, her eyes were fixed on the chain in her hand. Mom, I'm here to rescue you. I can definitely break this chain. As she spoke, she raised her soul power to the maximum, causing the chain in her hands to glow pinkish red. However, the chain didn't move at all, and showed no signs of breaking. Nan Qiuqiu's hands were already starting to bleed. Her tears also began to fall down her cheeks in large drops. Wah! As her tears wildly surged forth, Nan Qiuqiu pounced into her mother's embrace and cried, Mom, you've suffered. Mom, I've come late. Mom. All sorts of feelings welled up in Nan Shuishui's heart as she hugged her daughter. She sighed, silly girl, it's not what you thought. Your mother is fine. Although that fella destroyed my clothes, he didn't sully me. You thought too deeply into it. Ah. Nan Qiuqiu raised her head, and she said with misty eyes, what happened? Then, Nan Shuishui had a helpless look on her face as she said, I knew that fella many years ago. He was one of your father's love rivals when I was young. When I later married your father, he became an evil soul master in a moment of rage. However, he lost his manhood because of it. I haven't been sullied by him or anything during these few days. He's just destroyed my clothes. He comes to see me every day, and he does his best to take care of my everyday life. To be honest, I don't hate him. I even feel somewhat guilty. If it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have walked the path of an evil soul master. Nan Qiuqiu stared blankly at her mother. She'd never thought that something like this would have occurred to her mother in the past. Then what about these chains? Nan Qiuqiu asked with a depressed look on her face. Nan Shuishui laughed bitterly. I tried breaking them before he fed me that soul eradicating powder. I couldn't even break it with my cultivation, so there's no need to talk about whether you can do it. You should go quickly. In any case, he definitely won't kill me. You should just leave this place safely before considering anything else. Oh, right. Give me a spare change of clothes. If he destroys them again, I'll just smack my head against a wall and die. Only then did Nan Qiuqiu come to her senses. She hurriedly took a set of spare clothes from her storage type soul tool and helped dress her mother. The silver chain bound to her leg proved somewhat of a hindrance. However, quickly, go. Nan Shuishui's expression immediately became much better after she was fully dressed. Nan Qiuqiu shook her head strongly and hugged her mother tightly. No, I'm not going. I was only able to find you after much difficulty, so how can I just leave like this? I'll definitely rescue you. Oh, right. even if I can't do it, that fellow might be able to. You quickly come down now. The lock on my mother's leg won't open. After hearing Nan Kyu-kai's cry, Who are you? We entered the room and leapt down into the basement. Nan Shuishui nodded softly after seeing him. However, a smidge of red instantly appeared on Nan Kyu-kai's charming face as she stared at him. At this moment, she finally understood why Who are you? Didn't follow her down earlier. He must have known beforehand that her mother was naked by his spiritual detection. This fellow. Who are you? Said respectfully. Hello, Senior Nan. Nan Shuishui sighed softly. How can you risk your lives like this? Sunrise City is filled with people from the Sun Moon Empire, and there are even people from the Holy Ghost Church. It's too dangerous. Quickly, go. You two won't be able to break this chain on my leg. Who are you? Took the chain from Nan Kyu-kai and looked it over for a few moments. After that, he wiped his forehead with his right hand, and a jade green light appeared in his palm. With a flash of jade green light, the link instantly snapped clean off. Before Nan Shuishui could even finish speaking, her eyes widened. Who are you? Tugged the chain, and quickly walked over to the ring on the wall it was connected to. The jade light in his hand flashed once again, cutting the ring apart. He immediately put the chain away in his storage-type soul tool. Nan Shuishui was completely stunned. She had personally tried breaking this chain using her cultivation as an 8-ring soul Douluo, along with the power of annihilation, and had failed to so. However, Who are you? Was able to break it with no difficulty at all. This was simply inconceivable. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.